Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavad-gita, as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Chapter 2, Text 71. Vihaya kamanya sarvan pumangs charati nispriha nirmamo nirahankara shashantim adhigachati. Yeah, so please read the translation and the purport, and I'll read it afterward in English. How many people here do not understand Tamil? Don't understand Tamil? Well, there are three. Yeah, and Vrindavan Chandra. Yeah, a few. So just read it in Tamil. Srila Prabhupada was very concerned to present this knowledge of Bhagavad-gita to the world. He often referred to Krishna consciousness as a science. Now we might think that Prabhupada used to use this word science because he wanted to capture the attention of people who are interested in science. That might be partially true, but actually it's a fact that Krishna consciousness is a science. This very word Vijnana is repeatedly used in Bhagavad-gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Jnana Vijnana Triptatma Kutasto Vijitendriyaha. For instance, in Bhagavad-gita is described the self-realized person who is satisfied by virtue of realized knowledge, this Jnana Vijnana, who is steady and has conquered over the senses. So Bhagavad-gita is a practical scientific guide to how we can live our lives. It's not simply spoken for the benefit of one person, Arjuna. Arjuna was not feeling peaceful. After hearing Krishna's instructions, he became peaceful. Now, how can you think that Arjuna became peaceful when he had to fight a battle? He didn't want to fight the battle. He wanted to be peaceful. But Krishna told him that if you don't fight, you won't be peaceful. Because if you indulge in your own desire, you can never be peaceful. That's what's stated in this verse. But if we try to satisfy Krishna, then we become peaceful. So although Arjuna, he was fighting, which means it doesn't seem like a very peaceful activity, but mentally he was peaceful. Because he knew he was doing the right thing. He was pleasing Krishna. So to fight, one has to be angry. There's no question of fighting without being angry. But that is a different anger to that of the unrestrained anger of the materialist. The anger of the materialist is based on material desire. But the anger of Hanuman in burning Lanka, or Arjuna in attacking the Kauravas, that is pure anger, because it is for the service of the Supreme Lord. So here in this verse, it is a scientific description of how to attain peace. There's another verse at the end of the 5th chapter, which also describes how to get peace. So in this verse, which comes in at the end of the 2nd chapter, it's the general principle of how to attain peace is given. And at the end of the 5th chapter, the specific principle is given. Here it said that to give up material desires is the key to attaining peace. And at the end of the 5th chapter, there's the point of specifically understanding Krishna is described. And Bhoktaram sarva yagya. What is that verse? Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarva loka maheshwaram suhridam sarva bhutanam gyatva mang shantim richati. Krishna says one can attain peace, or they attain peace, who understand me, Krishna, to be the enjoyer of all yagyas and austerities, to understand me to be the proprietor of everything in the universe, who understand me, Krishna, to be the good-hearted friend of every living being. So in this verse, which we just read, it gives the understanding of why we are not peaceful, because we have material desires. Now, as Krishna points out elsewhere in Bhagavad-gita, this whole material world is dukkhalayam. It is a place of misery. There are certain people who see a lot of the suffering of the world. As I was just discussing with our DSP of police, the police, they get to see a lot of the worst side of human society. And doctors get to see a lot of the worst side of human society. And in the modern age, it seems the sadhus, they also get, because people come and tell us all their problems and this and that, and it's a nasty world. So sadhus, they are supposed to leave the world to get relief from it, but then everyone comes and tells them all their various disturbances. Now, as I was also discussing with our DSP here, so much money is spent on security and police, and the army of India is more than 1 million people, and the government police forces and the security forces for internal security, and then private security force. Every ATM has to have some 24 hours security. That's also more than 1 million people put together. And for a big politician to move from one town to another costs at least 1 crore rupees, because there's so much security arrangements. So much big arrangement for protection. In America, they have, in a population of about 350 million, they have about 2.5 million people in prison. Yeah. So there's so much arrangement for punishing criminals and security, but they don't analyze why is there more and more crime, and how to stop that. Similarly, there are more and more hospitals being built, as you in Vellore know very well. Doctors are always guaranteed job for doctors. The software engineers, that may go out, or any engineer in any field. That technology may become superseded or redundant, but the doctors, they will always have a job. But so much money is spent on medical care, but very little is spent on educating people how to live a healthy life so they don't have to go to the doctor. And actually in America, the American Medical Association, which is a very powerful, it's like a union of doctors, they specifically discourage this education in healthcare because it's not good for their business. But there are simple things that if, for instance, the kind of food that's promoted to eat, most of it in the modern, just like these Lay's crisps, for instance. Everyone knows what Lay's crisps are. But it's very bad for health. It doesn't, even if you're healthy, it's very bad for health. It's no food value whatsoever. Well, it has some carbohydrates, that's true. Not very digestible carbohydrates. But anyway, I'm just making the point that, well, the whole problem in material life is that we are unhappy, right? Now, elsewhere in Bhagavad-gita, just around here, Lord Krishna says, Ashantasya kuta sukham. It's a rhetorical question. It's a statement phrased as a question. It means that for one who does not have peace, where is the question of happiness? It's just like you might have all arrangements for happiness. And we see this very often, actually. If someone has lots of money, big house, beautiful wife, car, prestige, and completely miserable. Because his mind is totally agitated. He's just completely stressed, or you go from stress to depression and like this. So, there's no happiness unless there's peacefulness of mind. So here in this verse that we're reading today, Krishna says that one who has given up material desires can attain peace, which is actually a continuation of the what was said in the previous verse. Apuryama chala prachishtam samudramapa pravishanti advad tadvad kama yah pravishanti sarve sashantim apnotena kama kami. Krishna says, well, you can read it if you want. I'll say it in English. It says a person who tries to, Krishna says that desires, they're always flowing into the mind, like rivers are flowing into the ocean. One who tries to fulfill those desires can never be peaceful. One who doesn't try to fulfill them, he can be peaceful. You can read the translation.
அவ்வாறு கடந்த பொழுது கடல் எவ்வாறு அசைபட்டு இருக்கிறதோ அதுபோல பலவிதமான ஆசைகள் நம்முடைய பௌதிகமான மனதில் புகுந்த பொழுதும் கூட எவனொருவன் அந்த ஆசைகளை பூர்த்தி செய்ய முயற்சி செய்யாதவனாக இருக்கிறானோ அவன் ஒருவனால் மட்டும்தான் மன அமைதி அடைய முடியும் என்று கிருஷ்ணர் கூறுகிறார்.
So this is a very simple fact of human psychology, that the more we try to fulfill material desires, the more we become frustrated. And the relationship between material desire and sin, this is established a little later in Bhagavad-gita. The police, they should be very interested to know this. Arjuna asked Krishna, it's a very good question, and a question that people often ask actually. Atha kena prayuktoyam papam charati purushaha anichan apivarshneya baladiva niyojitaha. He says, Arjuna asks Krishna, that why is it that we perform sinful activities, even if we know it's wrong, we don't want to do it, but still we do it as if something is forcing us. Why? And Krishna answers with the same theme as given in the verse we read today. Kama esha, krodha esha, rajoguna samudbhavaha, mahashano mahapatma vidhyena mihavayena. Krishna says that it is kama, material desire, which is later transformed into krodha, anger, and which is the enemy, the all-devouring enemy of the human being. So because we are cultivating material desires, therefore we are impelled to do wrong activities. Even if we know what is right and we know what is wrong, but we do the wrong thing because we have such a strong desire. So we can actually attain peace when we stop trying to fulfill material desires. That doesn't mean that we should stop all desire. That is not possible. There is a school of thought. It's in Buddhism or this Advaita Vedanta, in which they say you should stop desire. The Buddha said that the world is full of suffering. The cause of suffering is desire. Therefore, we should stop desire. But it's not possible to stop desire. If you think, I will stop desire, that's also a desire. So we cannot get free from desire. It's natural for the soul to desire. But desire should be purified. That means to desire to please Krishna. Just like there's this devotee here. I gave the name Krishna Kamini Devidasi. Where is she? She's there? Yeah. That means all the desires should be for Krishna. And if one is so pure, then Krishna will also desire that devotee. So it means also one who Krishna is attracted to that. Krishna has karma for that devotee. So it's actually a very simple formula that if we increase our material desires, then we become actually a very bad person. Even without understanding any advanced spiritual knowledge, everyone knows that someone who's very selfish, they're not a good person. And in traditional societies throughout the world, anyone who is very interested in excessive sense enjoyment, that was generally thought not to be very good. Even in married life, if a man was too much desirous to enjoy with his wife, that's thought not very good. If someone is so much interested in enjoyment, in fine clothes, fine food, fashions, money, it's thought not very proper person in traditional society. And all the cause of so much these wars, so you see this, India was invaded or colonized by foreigners, either directly attacking or by the trade they were coming in and taking over. It was all based on material desire. So it's a very simple thing to understand. If we increase our material desires, then we'll become less peaceful, and the whole society becomes disturbed. But in the modern society is so insane that they promote material desire more and more. Is this your boy? He's sitting next to you. His T-shirt says progress. The future generation. His little boy. How old is he? 5 years old? 8. His T-shirt says future. What is it? Progress. The future generation. I saw him in the arati like that. His name is Karthik, is it? Oh, doctor. Vidvik. Smriti. Smriti. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. So there's this idea that progress means we should build more buildings and have more cars and have more hospitals and more police and more guns, and this is progress. Bangalore people are very proud that our city is so progressive. The IT capital of Asia, probably. Not just India, but probably of all of Asia. We have big companies and intelligent people and this and that. But you just look on the faces of the people and they're all completely miserable. It's just like in the West. You see, everyone just looks completely miserable most of the time. I mean, there's just all the time people look miserable, but in my life, I remember a few instances of it just striking me how miserable people are. One time in Perth in Australia, we were just driving somewhere in the city at 5 o'clock in the evening, which is when people go home from work. So we were just driving past a line of people waiting for a bus, waiting for buses. Every one of them looked completely drained, as if someone had taken them and squeezed them out. So they just had no sfurti. What do you call that? No life or no enthusiasm, nothing left. It's just like Another time I remember in Birmingham, as they say in Birmingham, which is a big city in England. We were in the evening. Birmingham. In Birmingham, you say in civilized English, BBC English, and in Birmingham, they say Birmingham. They pronounce it like that. So, one evening we were going in some apartments doing door-to-door, doing book distribution. And I knocked on one door, and there was all this noise coming from inside. And eventually, or I rang the doorbell, and then some housewife answered. And I couldn't see inside, but inside the television was blaring, kids were screaming, the dog was barking, and the father's voice, you could hear it, he was shouting at them all. And then the woman, she opened the door with the smell of meat coming out. She was cooking the meat. And the woman opened the door, and she just looked completely, she's trying to handle all this. Just looked totally distressed. This is what they call progress. And you see, now that's the same thing in Bangalore. They're just at the end of the day, or even not in at the beginning of the day, they look completely. I remember last time driving into Bangalore and then just looking in the bus, and then in the beginning of the day, and they look completely shattered and drained even before they start work. Bangalore used to be known as the Garden City. Life was relaxed and peaceful. But now they've made progress, and everyone is miserable. And it's full of pollution. And now previously there was practically no serious crime, theft, murder. Murder was practically unheard of. Now it's come because of progress. In America, in Los Angeles, there's one devotee I know, a friend of hers, he was shot dead. A friend of hers was shot dead in Los Angeles. Murder case. So she came to know of this, and she phoned the police and said, well, he was a close friend, and if you want, I can give some information. So they said, well, listen, madam, we get an average of 12 murders every morning. So, first of all, find the computer number and then phone back, because, it's too much trouble otherwise. How am I going to find out, Just tell me the name. Dial another, get the number, get the computer number, and then call back. Los Angeles. Progressive. So much progress. What went wrong? Science was developed. So many facilities were made for human beings. We have electric light and running water, motor cars, and advanced hospitals. And why is everyone so miserable? Because the so-called progress is based on increasing material desire. People previously were satisfied to live simply. And in this country, and actually in many other countries, the main pleasure for people, well, they took pleasure in their family life and in religious matters. People wouldn't work all day and night. After dark, you can't work. So that was a blessing. So in the evening, people would go to a temple and listen to some Ram Katha or Krishna Katha, and they were very happy. But now, with the invention of all this electric light, you can work 24 hours a day. But to get people to work 24 hours a day, they have to tell you that unless you have a car and a fridge and a mixie and a washing machine and an AC and this and that and something else and something more, you're nothing. So you have to work and work and work and work, so you can go back to your house and sleep in the AC. Sleep in the AC room. In the AC, air-conditioned room. And you can have a super wall-to-wall TV screen. But if you get time to sit in front of it, you'll just fall asleep anyway because you're so exhausted. So you have to get people, to get them to work, to get the progress, you have to get people to work more and buy more things. That means you have to instill desire in them. You have to get them to want to buy all kinds of things which previously they didn't need. Just like a packet of Lay's crisps. How much does that cost?
10.
Minimum 10 rupees. for a packet of Lay's crisps. He doesn't know, he's too pure.
Chips.
But you don't see on the trains, everywhere, people are eating Lay's crisps. They call it chips here? Or what? Previously, at home, the women, they would cook some different items. And it would be cheaper, tastier, and healthier. And with mother's love. And hopefully offered to Krishna also. So like that, this bottle of Pepsi, how much does that cost? Minimum 20 rupees. And then you make lemonade at home, it's again cheaper, healthier, fresher, tastier. You pay 10 rupees for the Pepsi, 5 rupees goes for paying Sachin to advertise it, right? So the whole thing's ridiculous. They get these big PhDs to make inquiries into all the problems, but the root problem they don't see. They call it progress to become more polluted, more sinful, and more miserable. How is this progress? So Bhagavad-gita gives very practical guidance for the betterment of human society. It's not a religious book in the normal sense, that you're supposed to just believe in the Bible or believe in the Quran, otherwise you burn in hell forever, thanks to the all-merciful God, which doesn't make any sense at all. You're supposed to just believe it. But in Bhagavad-gita, Lord Krishna gives scientific principles for the betterment of human society. That if we increase our material desire, then it's not that we become more happy, we become less happy. Because we go against our own self. That's called swarat, or self-interest, but it's not really self-interest. We cannot know what is our self-interest unless we know who we are. So these are very basic principles which any sane person can understand. But unfortunately, most people are insane, and therefore they cannot understand it. It's a fact that people, even though they may appear to be sane, actually most people are insane. Just like everyone makes mistakes, right? If you make the same mistake twice, that's stupid. But if you go through your whole life repeating the same mistakes, that's called insanity. So, by increasing material desire, we become unhappy. That is a principle which anyone can observe. Why is Bangalore, which used to be known as a pleasant city, now an unpleasant city? It's not difficult to understand that the so-called progress is simply producing misery. But people are insane, so they keep on wanting to increase the so-called progress. This is insanity. Why can't people see this? That's also described in Bhagavad-gita. And again, the problem is kama, material desire, which is, the effect of that is jnanam avritya dehinam. This material desire covers the proper understanding of the living being, so that he acts against his own self-interest. So Srila Prabhupada, he wanted, out of his compassion for human society, he wanted to distribute this knowledge of Bhagavad-gita. So we shouldn't think that Krishna Bhakti is some kind of sentimental faith. You can believe in Jesus or Allah or Sai Baba or Krishna or something. We should try to understand the scientific principles of Bhagavad-gita, one of which I've discussed briefly this evening. That in itself is revolutionary or revelation for the human society. The conclusion of Bhagavad-gita is that we should dedicate ourselves completely to Krishna, because he is the supreme controller, the supreme personality of Godhead. This is also not just simply some faith, but again, practically, we can see that everyone is controlled. To give a graphic example, if we may have to run quickly to the bathroom, because we cannot control the flow of the Apana Vayu, that's called in in Sanskrit under the air which forces the stool out of the rectum. See, that's also science. That's they describe the different kinds of airs. Some air is for speaking, some air is for belching, some air is for mixing with the food in the stomach for digesting. This is Vedic scientific analysis. So we cannot control our stool. Sometimes you may want to pass and you cannot. We're forced to die. We're forced to grow old. You can go to get some herbal face packs, but it doesn't work. You still grow old. You can make the outside look very nice, but inside it's still rotting away. So we are controlled. As Srila Prabhupada quotes in this purport here, Ishavasya sarvam. Does he not quote that? Yeah, everything is under the control of the Supreme Controller. The whole of modern science is simply to try to find out all the laws of the universe. Yeah, so it makes sense to find out who is the vidhi, the person vidhi, who makes the vidhi. Who is the person who makes the laws? He's also called vidhi or vidhata. It's a related word. The one who dispenses. So it makes sense to understand that there is a Supreme Controller, and that Supreme Controller is Krishna. So try to understand this knowledge of Bhagavad-gita. Now, in this month in particular, devotees are stressing on distribution of these books. Actually, it should not only be during 1 month, but during 12 months. Or some years there are 13 months, so then 13 months. That means the Adhika Masam, the extra months in the Vedic calendar. So, human society needs this knowledge very much. It's essential. Those who are distributing this knowledge, they should also distribute it to themselves. You all have to, don't just distribute, you have to read the books also, every day. Otherwise people will ask you, what's in the book? You say, well, I don't know. You just buy it, that's all. You should know also, otherwise you will also be overcome by material desire. And then, jnanam avritya dehinam, then your knowledge will become covered by Maya. So, Hare Krishna, that's all I'm going to say now. If there's any question, please ask.
You said a line that this world is created by Lord. This world is full of filled with sadness. But the Holy Lord only created this world. Why should He give sadness to His creations?
It's a common question. God created this world, so why is it miserable? Well, He created it for us who want to forget Him. That is the source of the misery. Birth, death, old age and disease are symptoms. The actual misery is forgetfulness of Krishna, but we have chosen that. Yeah. Sorry, I can't hear because someone else is giving a pravachan over there. It's the dogs. He practices every day. Barking practice. Several times a day. Yeah. And they think it's very nice to have a dog. Just see, this is Maya. They think it's nice to have a dog. It's just disturbing. Again and again. Yeah.
Maharaj, you said material desires are the bottom, everything behind our suffering, which gives us sadness. So, but you said that we have to desire also, or we desire also. So, how can we distinguish? Because the manifestation of everything is in the form of material things. How can we understand some material desire, what we are desiring, or spiritual desire?
Yeah, material desire is for personal sense gratification, and spiritual desire is that which is for the pleasure of Krishna.
But the problem is every jivatma has some pravritti. It's inclined to something. So every jivatma will think in a way. So that's a particular way in which the jivatma thinks. So how can we understand that? It's for ourselves, because we'll think like that. Suppose, like, I'm an engineer, so I'll think in that perspective. So
you're an engineer, so you'll think in an engineer's perspective. Well, that's the problem. That's the Maya. You're not an engineer. You're thinking you're an engineer, but the Atma is a servant of Krishna. So if you think I'm an engineer, then you'll have material desires. If you think I'm a servant of Krishna, then you'll desire to serve Krishna.
Serve in any form, in any way?
That you have to be trained how to serve. What does it mean to serve Krishna? Just like Krishna, he asked, Patram pushpang palang toy, offer me fruit, leaf, flower and water. If we think, well, I like meat, so let me offer meat to Krishna, then that's not service. We have to understand what Krishna wants. We have to learn what is actually pleasing to Krishna. We might do something that we like to do and offer that to Krishna. We might build a bridge and call it Krishna Bridge. So basically we're doing what we want to do, but we add a little Krishna there. But better than that is to do what Krishna wants. I spoke on this yesterday morning, right? Distinguishing between doing what Krishna wants and doing what we want and offering it to Krishna. So the lecture that I gave yesterday morning, I guess is it on the internet now? So you can download it and listen. I discussed this point in some detail yesterday. But in context of the question of one student who had insisted that study and getting a career is devotional service. So I discussed that in some detail. How doing what we want can be dovetailed in Krishna's service. Some things, not everything. But it's not the same as first of all, understanding what Krishna wants us to do and doing that. So I discussed that in some detail. There's more to it than that.
It's not a lot of method, but how butter is
Krishna took a lot of butter. Nowadays they say don't take butter, is it? Butter's bad for health. Milk is bad for health. Meat is good. This is what they say. Rascals. Well, if you don't eat meat, then a little butter won't hurt you. You eat so much meat with cholesterol and you don't do any work, physical work, then you're going to... Krishna had butter, but he was doing work. Of course, he has a completely spiritual body. Anyway. Meat is good, milk is bad. That's what they say. That's the modern propaganda. This is all Rakshasa Pracharam. They like the taste of blood. As Srila Prabhupada pointed out, the flavor of meat is in the blood, but the same blood is transformed as milk, and then you don't have to kill the animal to take that. Or if you're addicted to eating meat, Srila Prabhupada made a suggestion. You wait for the animal to die, then you eat the meat. But killing animals unnecessarily for the pleasure of the tongue is sinful. Unfortunately, some of the major religious festivals of the world, they're celebrated by killing animals. Durga Puja and Kali Puja in Hinduism, and then in the West, in America and England, Christmas, although it's a bad time for turkeys. One kind of turkey's like a huge chicken about this size. And they killed, and like this, Bakri Eid means Ramjan, all this. No, Ramjan is supposed to be fasting, but they eat more. Isn't it? They eat more meat during that time. So, anyway, we're not simply condemning, but we're just trying to understand the principles here. So, Hare Krishna, we'll finish there.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to His Divine Grace, Srila